Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. New day, new build, new me, I guess. So, today I want to start taking you onto the journey of a potential very insane build. What I'm talking about is a stat stacking character. So, if I take a look at my character list so far, and yes, call me a psychopath or a masochist or anything, but yeah, this is it. Level 71 Stormweaver, we have an 81 Deadeye, we have an 80 Witch Hunter, we have a 67 Gemling, and a 53 Infernalist. So I've been through the campaign like 5 times. I think this one hasn't hit campaign like endgame yet, but all the others did. So lots of campaign, lots of testing things, and so on and so forth. And if I look back on my first character, which was an Essence Drain Contagion character, moving over, trying out some fire skills, then going for the Archmage Spark character, and then going for the Lightning Crossbow Witch Hunter, and then I said, like, you know what, I want to try the same build as a Deadeye, and now going for a Gemling, basically, right? So I'm testing out and playing so freaking much PoE. I think I have like, I don't know, like 130 hours or something of PoE 2 already on my bag, but it's hella fun. So, what is this build? So since I played some kind of like spellcaster dot build into a normal spellcaster into a range attack-based build, there is 2 builds or even more than that I have not touched yet, which is minions and a melee build. And since people always complain about melees being like so much harder to play than any kind of like range character, I said, like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go. I want to play a melee character next to see how that one feels like. Disclaimer here, this is early access Path of Exile 2, which means for me personally, I want to try out as many things as possible, see what kind of builds and playstyles do I enjoy the most, because at some point we're gonna probably run or get into our first season of Path of Exile, and at this point I kind of want to know what kind of archetypes I do enjoy, and so on and so forth. So I'm testing a lot. I don't see the necessity for me personally to min-max a character to its fullest potential. I'm still like here, I'm currently on tier 10 map, so I still have to push the end game, but I'm doing it in my style, just trying out different builds and trying different mechanics and so on and so forth, and obviously sharing it with all of you guys. So, melee character, what is this? So this is, I just finished the campaign, we have like a 16 hours playtime, and this is a Gemling Legionnaire, and the reason for that is stat stacking. So what I'm doing on this build specifically is going for my first stat stacking character using the Pillar of the Cage God. So basically, what do stats do? Strength gives you basically life, then dexterity gives you accuracy, and intelligence gives you mana. And if you think like, hey, if you have like so many stats like over here, what is even like the point of like doing that for stacking life or accuracy or mana, or what is going on? You don't even have mana, right? And the thing is, there are items, and our passive tree also supports that kind of attribute playstyle. So let's take a look at those items. On Pillar of the Cage God, if I'm stacking intelligence, I'm getting increased area of effect, which is a global modifier. So a lot of int equals a lot of AoE. Dexterity gives me attack speed, which in this case should be local to the weapon because it's a stat on the weapon. At least that's how it works in PoE 1, basically, right? Modifiers on the weapon counts for the weapon. So the increased attack speed should get my base attack speed up from the weapon, and the increased weapon damage is also scaling my weapon damage itself. So the 11 to 22 physical damage and the lightning damage on top. If we then take a look at some other modifiers, like over here, the brute strength, which gives increased damage per 15 strength, this is a global modifier. So that is basically on top then, right? The same with attack speed. There is one node over here which is called the Falcon Technique. It gives me increased attack speed per 15 dexterity. So the way I see it, or at least the way it works in Path of Exile 1, I don't really have a confirmation or anything like that. It's all about testing and trying. The increased attack speed per deck should be local to the weapon, while the attack speed on the skill tree should be a global thing, which is increased attack speed over here, right? If this is true or not, you know, don't like trust my words. It's just like what I think the way it works. There is no path of building where I could test all these kind of things, but this is the way it should work. So let's go back to our Pillar of the Cage God. So we have weapon damage scaling per strength, we have attack speed per dexterity, and increased AoE per intelligence. So which would technically mean, hey, if you are stacking just strength, you should get out the most damage, which is true, but this is a tri-attribute stacker. I want to get all the attributes in the best case scenario all at the same level. And why is that? First of all, I'm having here a note which is Jack of all trades, 2% increased damage per 5 of your lowest attribute. My lowest attribute right now is intelligence with 338, and as you gear the character and as you progress, you see, oh, I'm having actually more dex than intelligence, so I should technically just go ahead, refund a couple of passives and change those dex nodes now into intelligence nodes. This is like a super easy way, and then you try to like get this like as close together as possible. Oh, actually I have like too much thing now, so we go a little bit more dex with 3946. So this should be kind of like fine now because I have increased intelligence and stuff. So the 5 attributes is actually more than 5 attributes. In the end of the day, this gives you increased damage per 5 the lowest attribute. Here you get damage per 15 strength, for example. Then we have like the attack speed per dexterity, and then there is other nodes as well on the tree that will help you in the further progression. I'm currently level 67, so there is a long way to go. This is just like me doing my diary, and telling you guys what I'm up to, what am I playing, what is the current plan, the build, and so on and so forth, and this is it. Good, then we have like other things, let me see if I can find them. Here we have accuracy equal to your strength, where you say like, why do you need so much accuracy? If you have so much dex, you have a lot of accuracy, but there is also somewhere a note, if I can find it, which basically says you gain attack speed based on your accuracy. Let me see if I can find this real quick. 1% increased attack speed per 250 accuracy. That would also be a thing where you say, hey, if I scale strength, I gain accuracy, and accuracy gives me attack speed with that, for example, right? But the thing that I actually wanted to check out is... let's look for his threshold, because here I should find it. So here, 4 ailment threshold per dexterity. As far as I understand, ailment threshold means a monster has to hit you for a certain amount of damage before it can inflict an elemental ailment. So if I have my ailment threshold of like 1,000 and the monster hits me with like 100 fire damage, it's very unlikely that I will get ignited, for example, right? So if I get the natural immunity, I'm most likely with a lot of dexterity maybe get to a point where I'm like almost, it's impossible for me to get any kind of like ailments inflicted. If it works that way, that's what I assume, right? If we go over here on the hefty unit, we have stun threshold per strength. So that means lots of strength equals probably stun immunity at some point, right? So you see, there is lots and lots and lots of synergies on a build like that, where you can get a lot of like these things going. But it's not all. This build, currently, the way I play it, scales insanely well with the Hand of Action and Wisdom and Action, which gives me 1 to 10 lightning damage per 10 intelligence, as well as increased attack speed per 25 dexterity. So now we have a way to scale a lot of percent increased damage based on our tree and weapon damage based on the Pillar of the Cage God. And all this percent increased weapon damage is not doing a lot if you just don't have good amount of weapon damage. And that's where this item comes into play, because now we're scaling intelligence to get all the flat damage. So strength for the percent damage, intelligence for the flat damage, and the AoE and dexterity for insane amounts of attack speed. And since I'm very low level right now, but I'm still like very, very fast hitting, and it's a very, very fun playstyle over here, right? The problem with the fast hitting is, though, I spent a shit ton of mana, and that's why I decided to go for Blood Magic, which removes all my mana and converts the mana cost of skills to life cost. So even though my Ice Strike only costs like 50 mana, or now 50 life, when you have so much attack speed, as you see on my life pool, I'm actually just losing life when I'm attacking, because this is just the problem when you attack so fast. So I need stats like life gain on hit, maybe life regen, then, I don't know, recoup or something when I get hit that I can sustain my life. But at the moment, I have so much damage, and I'm currently doing like T1 maps, it's like whatever, right? Everything dies in a split second anyways, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a footage at the end of the video. But now I just want to explain like what I'm up to and how this build kind of like works. Next thing is, so now we know that attributes is what we want to have. Problem is, since we're wearing a lot of uniques, it is almost impossible to cap resistance. As I said, I'm just strictly out of the campaign. I'm still having like a bunch of like gear, leveling gear that I bought here, like the boots, you know, strength, dex, intelligence, a bit of movement speed, but they are like wearable at level 27. Then I have here like a classic ring with just basically as life and strength, dexterity. Here we have life, strength, dexterity, intelligence, right? This one is a little bit of a different case here, but I'm going to explain that in a second. On my Meganoid's girdle, we have a lot of strength and a little bit of cold res. So the problem is res. That basically means you just cannot go all out on attributes because there is none, as far as I know. Any stat or modifier that says like, oh, here you get all the resistance per strength or something. This just doesn't exist. The thing though is, on this build, since we're basically traveling around the entire skill tree, we do have a lot of jewel sockets, and most of my jewel sockets are pretty much empty because I haven't really found out a good way to put in jewels. I assume that something like an adorned setup might be like the best case scenario, because if we take a look at the jewels, what stats they have, right? I think at the moment I'm using like damage taken, recouped as life, and magnitudes of shock, something like that, right? Because I'm dealing a lot of lightning damage, so that my shocks get increased, and therefore the monster takes increased damage. Obviously, there is a lot of modifiers where you say like increased lightning damage, increased cold damage, increased attack speed, increased like all these kind of like percent damage, but I think that all this like percent increased damage on a jewel is kind of like useless. It's not useless, but since we have so much generic percent damage scaling, I think if you have like, let's say 1000% scaling, then a 16% increased melee damage or something isn't really a lot, because then it's, instead of 1000% increase, it's a 1016%, right? It's just like a very, very minor thing to do. Same with attack speed. I think if I get a jewel with like a 4% increased attack speed for quarter staves or something, that would just mean that on top of my, I don't know, like 500% increased attack speed, I get like 10% or 4% extra attack speed. So that's why I think like maybe chance to shock, what is it, magnitude of shock, maybe damage recoup, maybe movement speed are probably more valuable in this case. Later on, you can still like corrupt jewels basically, and they can get an attribute implicit, I think like 5 to 10 of like intelligence strength, and I think this is the way how to properly scale this build, where you just hammer your entire jewel slots with corrupted jewels with implicit attributes, for example, right? But this still doesn't really solve our resistance problem, and I do believe that yeah, it's gonna be very hard to do so, but I think like if I take this belt, this ring, this amulet, these boots, and yeah, probably the second ring depending, all of these should be rare with a shit ton of resistance, even though if it doesn't have stats on it. But you cannot go all out on stats if you fail on the basics of your character. As I said, I'm having negative resistance whatsoever, and there is no way I'm gonna do a T50 map, because everything that just looks at me will just instantly kill me, so all the damage will just not help me at all, right? But this is gonna be the tricky part, and the fun part, in my opinion, is trying to figure those things out. How can you make those work? And the question is, do you need those gloves to play the build? Yes and no. I would say yes, because it's going to be your best in slot item to scale your damage. No, in terms of if you have Pillar of the Cage God, which is I think like a 1 exalt item or something, and you start this journey with like strength stacking, then you should be fine until like high tier maps or something. But if you want to get the full potential out of the build, I don't think there is any way to get over these gloves. And I bought mine for like 100 exalt, so they are going to get expensive, probably even after the video and stuff, right? Good. What else do I use here? I'm using a Black Suncrest, which is a unique helmet that has increased strength, dexterity, and intelligence. And you can imagine like where this is going to lead us, right? Lots and lot of stat. For the amulet, obviously, the best in slot amulet would be an Astramentis, but this goes for like 100 divines or something, which is like, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 exalts or something. So this is like way over the top. But the problem is, if I know that I could potentially get Astramentis at some point, then I don't really want to fix my resistance on the amulet slot. you know? So I just like plan ahead and will try to figure out. I mean, obviously I can take a res amulet for now because, you know, Ascendancy is so far away in terms of currency that I don't really have to speculate or calculate with that, because if I get to the range point where I say like I can farm 1,000 Exiles or something, that would also mean that my boots, my belt, my rings, and so on could be also like way better. For the chest piece, I'm using the Moria Invictus, which also gives me increased attributes per socketed rune or soul core and global defense. These have like different modifiers. I think there's one that gives you like spirit per soul core and stuff like that. And this chest actually comes with 4 sockets, but you can also corrupt it for a 5th socket, but I'm like too too scared to corrupt those items because they are very expensive to get going, at least, right? For me, corrupting is something that you would do. Let's say I have this chest and I buy another chest and try to make it better than my old one, so I pick the new one and sell the old one off, right? But since those items are kind of pricey, I don't really want to gamble and just keep the base item, basically. But it also gives me increased attributes and global defense. So this character can scale evasion, armor, and all these kind of things. Even like global defense is energy shield on top. But I don't really have a lot of energy shield just yet. So I think it, the energy shield department is kind of like whatever. But there is a timeless jewel because in the end of the day, because we go back to our stats, we get life, we get accuracy, and we get mana. And I'm playing blood magic, so mana is completely useless. There is, though, a timeless jewel that converts your keystone. I think you need to be by Allrod or something, like influenced by Allrod, which basically would change a nearby keystone, and it would say intelligence gives you % evasion rating instead of mana. So I completely can ignore the fact that mana exists with my blood magic here, and I can go like heavy evasion stacking, and with my armor, basically with the global defense, I can then turn that into even more evasion. And with Wind Dancer and so on and so forth, it's going to be very tricky to figure all these things out. But these things do exist, and all I need basically is levels and gear and fix everything and whatnot. If we take a look at my skills here, I'm currently using Ice Strike, and you see that I have like 1,000 to 14,000 lightning damage, and I have not really any crit scaling. I think I have like 11% crit, and that's why I decided to pick up the Lightning Rod, which has lightning damage with non-critical hits is lucky. So basically what that means is if you hit the monster, the damage that you would do is calculated twice, and whatever is the higher roll is going to get taken, basically. Then we have increased attributes over here. Anything else? The planner of the current build is obviously in the description below, so I would say let's take a look at the gems. So I'm using Ice Strike. Initially, I actually wanted to do something different. If we take a look at, let me quickly just get some gems over here so we can go over the stuff. So I'm bound to be quarterstaff player because the Pillar of the Cage God is a quarterstaff. So I cannot really use any like axe or mace or something like skills, right? Besides like probably cries. So I was like, while leveling, I'm always like checking out what is these like other skills and stuff. And I think the majority of monk staff players are playing like Falling Thunder with Power Charge Generation and Tempest Flurry and what is the other one? Charge Staff, where you do like this weird, crazy shockwaves and stuff like that. This was actually the plan that I wanted to do too. But as I was leveling and trying out the skills, I found the most fun in Ice Strike. And what Ice Strike is basically doing, it converts your physical into cold damage and basically makes like a shockwave. So the third strike, I cannot show you the video here, but basically you hit 1 time, you hit 2 times, and then on the 3rd time you're doing like this shockwave, this slash, right? And what this does is basically giving us a bunch of like cold damage based on our physical damage because of the conversion. It chills the enemies, it freezes them, and then Herald of Ice goes off. And using that in combination with the Shattering Palm, which is basically my movement ability right now. So I'm dashing towards monsters, I apply the Shattering Palm debuff, and then I do Ice Strike, and then boom, like... I cannot wait for mapping today to figure out, like, see all these breaches and have, like, insane big chain reactions with Herald of Ice. Because other than, like, not in PoE in 1... Herald of Ice cannot really inflict any elements, right? Because this is what it says in a skill gem. In PoE 2, that is not the case. At least I don't see any text that says like, oh, Herald of Ice cannot freeze chain or something like that, right? And that's why I'm using the Pulse Circle ring. It says, enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as though frozen, which means Herald of Ice does when I shatter an enemy, which is I kill a frozen enemy, it explodes. So this in combination with the big AoE that I have with Shattering Palm, also implying those like freeze things, I kill one monster and they all, even though they're only chilled, they count as being frozen and then they shatter. What happens is big, nice chain reactions, and guess what? With attribute scaling, with intelligence, we get increased area of effect. So we have big chain explosions, and the more stats we get, the bigger our explosions will get, and this is the beauty of attribute scaling. But let's go over quickly my gem setup. I have Ice Strike with Close Combat, Martial Tempo, Crescendo, Conk Effect, and Primal Armament. Then for Shattering Palm, I currently run Innovate, Ice Bite, and Magnified Effect. Tempest Bell, Overabundance, and Persistence. And on the Hand of Chayula, which is basically an attack that applies curses, I'm having Moltaxic Mark, Conductivity, and Hate and Curse for now. Herald of Ice with Cold Mastery, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to pick here. And we have Wind Dancer with Maim, Precision, and Vitality. I do have like 40 Spirit over, so I could potentially take like a Herald of Ash on top of that, but I don't really plan to play with this amulet, and then my Spirit goes down. So as soon as we're gonna start streaming today and work on the character. We're gonna try to get some levels and replace a bunch of gear to somewhat get res capped, and then blast through maps and then see where we are going. Good. For the Ascendancy, there is multiple Ascendancy choices that you could have. I think there is like the Titan or any warrior class that has like 50% increased effect of notables or small passives, basically. That was like, I thought, my first pick, but then I made some research and apparently it would only count for small nodes that do something. For example, the increased attribute would be like 50% increased. It's not going to affect attributes nodes, because attribute nodes are something lower than small passives in that regard, right? So you have like the small passives, we have the notables, and we have the keystones, which are the big ones, right? So these are not going to get influenced by the 50% increase, apparently, and it would only affect those. So that's why the obvious choice now is going to be the Gemling. There are attribute nodes or things that are kind of like completely useless. If you have so much attributes like I do, you don't really care about too much like what your stat requirements are, because I have like hundreds of dex, intelligence, and strength, which is obviously a nice quality of life thing. But the thing is, this node over here, enhanced effectiveness, inherent bonuses from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled, which means my life here, I'm actually getting 4 life per 1 strength. I'm getting 10 accuracy per 1 dexterity, and I'm getting 4 mana per 1 intelligence. So technically, let's say I have 1,000 strength, that would result into 2,000 life, right? But as a Gemling, it actually gives me 4,000 life. So that makes my base stats a lot stronger. And what am I doing with this build? Yeah, I'm scaling base stats. The next Ascendancy choices are a little bit different here. I think I'm gonna go for quality and the level of skills, but I could also say like I do the less cost of skills, because at the moment with the fast attack speed I'm degenerating basically my life so fast. This I think is useless, but you can use 2 copies of the same support gem. There might be something that is nice. I don't think that this max scaling is going to be any kind of like a good thing, but the thing though is I mainly picked the Ascendancy based on the like doubling the inherent effect of my base attributes. Good, let me quickly do this trade over here. Thank you very much. Leave party, put in some exalties. So what is my currency saying? 134. I'm curious kind of like what will be the next investment, but obviously it's gonna be fixing resistance before anything else. Good, we went over the gear, we went over the passive tree, and how this build should work at some point once we get like more levels and the gearing aspect and stuff like that. But obviously, I'm gonna keep you guys updated on that. Alright, let's take a look at the gameplay showcase. This is gonna be no commentary, just gonna be like raw gameplay, so you see how the current character with the current gear, with actually negative res, is looking like in a T1 map. Obviously, a T1 map is like nothing, but considering the fact I don't even have rest, I'm strictly out of the campaign, I've only done 2 laps, and so on and so forth. It's just giving you the first idea of how this build will play like or look like. And if the skills are gonna change or yes or no and whatnot, it's all about testing, but I'm gonna keep you guys updated. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.
Always love roughing up a temple. Wild creature!
you